Good afternoon. I hereby call this special meeting of the Nacogdoches Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum is present, and notice of this meeting was posted in accordance with the Open Meeting Act. All board members are in attendance. Thank you so much. Remember today that items do not have to be taken in the order that's shown on the agenda, and we would appreciate if you would turn your phones to a silent mode. Thank you for being here. We didn't receive any request for public comment, and I'd like to thank you and let you know that you are always welcome to address this board. First on the agenda today is the canvass of the election. Let me say congratulations to the re-elected school board members. Thank you so much, Mr. Montoya. Thank you, Coach Fosh. I, James Irvin, the presiding officer of this canvassing authority of the Nacogdoches Independent School District Board of Trustees election, held on May the 6th, 2023, Nacogdoches County, do hereby certify that the following is a total of all votes received by each candidate. I further certify that the following vote totals include early vote by district received under section 87.1231 of the Texas Election Code. District 3, Mr. Demond Jackson, 37 votes. Mr. James Montoya, 76 votes. At large in District 2, Mr. Fashid Nirman and Mrs. Leah Beth App, thank you, Ms. App, were both unopposed. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to accept these election results.
Mr. President, I move to approve the canvass results and certify the announced election returns as true and correct for the May 6, 2023 Board of Trustees election.
Second.
Oh, it needs to be me, a second?
I'm sorry?
Second?
It has been moved by Ms. Mindy Winslow and second by Ms. Callie Pitcock. Any questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed unanimously. Thank you so very much. This point, we will call our most illustrious executive secretary, Ms. Holly Anderson, to administer the oath to the elected officers. Would y'all be so kind to step down in front of the podium? Going down? Yes.
Go ahead.
I, Rashid Newman, do solemnly affirm that I will execute office of duty of the Board of Trustees at large of the Nacogdoches ISD of Texas. Also, I will, to the best of my abilities, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and its state. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. I know. Would you like this? Okay. I, Lee Beth Apt, do
Excuse
solemnly
me.
affirm.
If I may do this, I think it's the left hand on the Bible and the right hand raised.
That's
Yes.
what I thought.
Raise your right hand.
Yes.
You want to flip sides? Okay. I, Lee Beth Apt, do solemnly affirm
I, Leah Beth Abt,
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties and office of trustees, District 2
the duties and office of trustee, District 2
of the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees
of the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees
and of the state of Texas,
and of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
The other way.
The other way.
Yeah.
Just want to be sure you guys are one.
I, James Montoya, do solemnly affirm
I, James Montoya, do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of trustee, District 3
of trustee, District 3
of the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees
of the NISD Board of Trustees
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my abilities
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I've signed the certificates of election. We are now official. Welcome back, my colleagues. Thank you. The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provision of the Texas Open Meeting Act and is followed by the Texas Government's sections 551.074 and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in the closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 12:07. Thank you. The board is now reconvening into open session, and the time is 12:40. We will now conduct the board officers' election for the year of 2023 and 2024. Board, we will now hear nominations for the president of the board. And then ask the
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Mr. Fashid Nirman as president of the school board for the next year.
Are there any other nominations? Nominations are closed. We've heard Coach Fashid Nirman nominated as president. In discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
The vote is unanimous. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you,
You're
ma'am.
the new
Thank you,
board
Steve.
president. You want to sit over here?
No, sir. You will be president today. I don't oppose you.
Oh, no, he needs to take over. He has to take over.
Oh,
Okay.
Just read the script, Coach. Here, use this one.
We'll have to change seats.
but he's in first district.
First, thank you very much. I don't know what you made, what decision you made, but I am glad to meet the challenges, and I need a lot of tutorials, and I know where to find those people who can guide me to this, to do a job. And I hope that I don't prove the Peters principle. Okay, at this time, floor is open for selection of a vice president. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Dr. Groman as Vice President.
Any other nominations? If it's not, Dr. Groman, you're assigned as Vice President. Congratulations.
We have to vote.
Have, all in favor of?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations, you are. Okay, at this time, the floor is open for the Secretary of Board. Any nominations for Secretary?
President Farshid, I'd like to nominate Ms. Leabeth Apt as Secretary of the Nacogdoches ISD School Board.
Well, Ms. Apt is nominated for the Secretary of School Board. Are there any more nominations? If it's not, nomination is closed. All in favor of?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Ms. Apt. Okay. Now I have to get my folder, get all my stuff.
Coach. Sir. Take my phone. That's what we got now.
Thank you.
Let's see. That's 2 times.
Okay.
Rev, that's 2 times you.
At this time, the next order of business is the budget workshop conducted by Lisa Warburg and Mr. Harold Whitaker.
Good afternoon, President Niraman, board members, Dr. Trujillo. So on page 17 is our agenda for the budget workshop, and I will now turn that over to Mr. Whitaker to present the compensation plan.
All right, good afternoon, President Niraman, board members, and Superintendent Trujillo. I have the pleasure of this afternoon of presenting the 23-24 compensation plan. And so at this time, I will present out hard copies for you to follow along in today's presentation. right, so thank you, Ms. Anderson, for passing out those draft copies, and after today's workshop, I will collect those just in case any revisions or anything may have to be made. So as we look through the compensation plan, on page 4 of the compensation plan, where it talks about general staffing information, we just went along and kind of updated those staffing numbers to kind of accurately reflect some of the correct number of FTEs and vacancies that we have within the district. So that number encompasses all of that information as well. So therefore, you will kind of see an updated total amount of the number of employees or number of FTEs that we have allotted for those specific positions there. Also on page 5, on the compensation plan recommendation, that first paragraph is just clerical changes to reflect the new current year. And also on page 5 there at the bottom, there's a new point of revision there, or addition, or rather, it talks about the specific compensation plan. So in that paragraph, it allows us to add any stipends or any incentives that we may further have to bring to the board later on, as you may be mindful of some of the incentives that we brought, I believe, in August of this current school year to you all, as we were trying to look at some strategic ways to get additional staff in through the sign-on bonus, the referral or the attendance incentives, or even the teacher shortage incentive that we added there in November of that $100 amount. So this just allows us to have this paragraph in there that talks about that will allow us to have it already built into the compensation plan. That way, we'll of course be mindful and let the board know. Dr. Trujillo will inform the board, but this allows us, we have to take board action to be able to go ahead and issue out or recommend any additional stipends or referrals or any incentives that we think that could be beneficial in having that information out to our staff members. Correct. Go ahead.
President Fashid and board, before we get too far away from page number 4, I want to make sure that you're aware, and as a matter of record for the community to be aware of, that if you look at the staffing changes in growth, please know that some of these positions that are reflected on here are funded through ESSER funds. And so because they are funded through ESSER funds, and the community may be thinking, we've added positions, and what are these positions? The ESSER positions were strategic for paraprofessionals, for classroom teachers, and those items that are there. So as we review and we move forward, and these federal funds are depleted and they're not extended out to us, then we have to make adjustments. Just as when we first started looking at this, every individual that was brought in to hire were clearly communicated that it may be a temporary position because of the ESSER funds. However, is the wisdom of this board that if that is a commitment that this board wants to prioritize, and we want to continue to provide that, then we can entertain that, but then we have to figure out how do we fund that in order to maintain it. You've heard me say this before, we can have anything we want, we just can't have everything. And so I just want to make sure that we draw attention to this, because the ESSER funds, Ms. Barbrick, this is the last year, so it will be expended the coming years. Last year, isn't it?
This coming year will be the last year.
Yeah, this coming year will be the last year. Now, depending on what the state does and the legislators do, you might see some adjustments there that deal specifically for safety and security and other things that may be playing in. I just didn't want to get too far away from putting that as a matter of record to make sure that everybody's clear that on page 4, when you see the 22, 23, 23, 24, there is a change there with staff specifically because of ESSERs. I didn't know if you needed to add any more to it, but I just want to make sure that it was clear with everybody.
Thank you, sir.
And I have a question regarding that. Under counselors, does that include social workers or just counselors?
ESSER funds touched every department that we had. So if we had funding that was there, and if you recall, several months ago when we were looking at this, we utilized ESSER funds to add social workers, to add teachers, to add interventionists. So there's not one area that is singled out. It's just making sure that you know that the funding mechanism is all across the board when it comes to how we dissipated the funds when it came to our folks. It's no surprise, we're back when we hired the social workers, if y'all recall. It made it clear at that point in the matter of record that these were ESSER positions, that we were expanding that. So the board needs to look at, and back then, when we talked about it, we even said, we've got to make sure, is this a commitment? We still have 12 months
Okay, yeah.
to navigate this. So we just got to make sure that, for full transparency for the community and for this board, I want to make sure you knew that. But yes, sir.
Yes, well, because from my point, I just, I think we've seen how social workers have proven their worth in our school district with our kids and our families, and I'm just real concerned that we keep those positions, as well as the teacher positions that we need and stuff, but I'm, where I come from, because I'm very strong about social work, so I just hope we can keep those positions that we have.
Yeah, this will be an ongoing dialogue with the board to arrive on the priorities that we have. I just want to make sure everybody knows that, once again, you can have anything you want, you just can't have everything. And that's just a general statement for all of it and how we prioritize what we have.
So we really have a year to think about it,
we do.
but just so the public knows, you have a year to go out there and talk to our legislators.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
hopefully, in a year's time, they're going to see the value of all this, too, and help us with this debt. I also had a question, though.
Sure thing, yes, ma'am.
In this gray area that's flexible,
Yes, ma'am.
I was, and this is a big step for me, I got out the calculator and did the math. And I think like some of our level paraprofessionals don't make $100 a day or $85 a day. If they were pulled in, because of the way this year has been, sometimes our paraprofessionals have been pulled in or actually acting as a substitute teacher. Do we give them the higher rate? Or has that not even been an issue? They're already making at least what they would make as a substitute. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure thing,
Okay.
yes, ma'am. And ideally, that is the case, that they would typically do that. And you're right, sometimes our parents have gone into the classroom or have to fill in due to a shortage area. And so we're still working through that and looking into that issue of, what can be done, if anything, to make sure things are adequately addressed in that regard.
Okay, good, because it's a lot harder to substitute than to be an aide. Okay.
One of the things, President Fashid and Ms. Apt and the rest of the board, is something we've not had in the past, where you have a paraprofessional that has an interest and wants to become a teacher. We have the mechanism now with Mr. Whitaker and several partnerships with Sam Houston, with Teachworthy. There's tools out there now that you're just not going to be a paraprofessional and be a substitute and be the teacher. If you really want to become a teacher, an educator, then I encourage anyone that's out there listening and they are in that situation to reach out to HR because that's what we're looking at now is transitioning some of these paraprofessionals into the teaching field. And in the past, that's not been a tool. Now it is a tool, but there are some guidelines and there are some expectations to go that route. So even though we may have some folks that are paraprofessionals that have been serving in that capacity, we do have some tools in place that will help and assist them to become degreed. Because our number one priority, and I know that Dr. Hill would stand firmly behind this, 100% of our teachers are highly qualified to meet the instructional needs of our kids. That's our goal, and that's what we want to get. So if we get a paraprofessional that wants to become a teacher, we can't do it on a hope and a prayer. We've got to make sure to equip them with the right tools and hopefully get their degree so they can do that job. So, but you bring up a really good point when it comes to that aspect of it, so.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes, sir.
Those new they go through the program to become certified so-called teachers. Okay, are they accredited college or just a degree? In other words, if I recall, NISD had an employee, had a doctorate degree, and doctorate degree was not accredited university, basically. And they find out he had to leave.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Could you clarify that for me?
In other words, when they get their certificate is validated or just another, let's say, Seahawk College, for example. In other words, accredited college, university is recognized.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Thank you. Are there any more questions on page 5? So as we move to page 7, we also look at the teachers, librarian, nurses pay scale. There are some changes in there. As you will see, the starting salary that we are proposing is a starting salary of $50,000 for our beginning teachers. Also on that page, you will see the secondary ELA stipend being added there, as well as you'll see that on another page as well, to attract and to target those secondary ELA teachers.
Are these rates comparable with the schools in our area?
Yes, sir. So looking into that and building this pay scale, it is comparable, as we have right now, schools to our south, some of the ones that we closely look at. At the current standpoint of where they are right now, this would put us above them at the starting salary, as well as other areas. It would definitely put us in the ballpark around with some of the larger school districts in the area, such as your Tyler, such as your Longview Independent School District. So it puts us right there in the game, in the ballpark figures with their starting teacher salaries.
Great.
At this point down. That doesn't mind you what they might go to, but at this current time, it does puts us right there in that ballpark.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And secondary ELA, that's a new stipend?
Yes, ma'am, that would be a new stipend.
They had no stipend before?
Correct.
Wonderful.
That was secondary ELA tested.
Which would encompass, yes, sir, which would encompass
Just
all
making
of
sure
those.
it's clarified so that all tested areas in ELA.
Oh, okay. I'll test it.
If you look on page 9, if there's not any questions about the teacher scale. On page 9, you will see the new hire guide for our counselors as we move up in kind of relation to the teacher scale. So those numbers are adjusted for this current upcoming school year as well. As we move on to page 11 on the athletic stipends. There are some strike-throughs on this amount. As you know, in the past, for a long time, we had the grandfathered-in stipends, and so that was meaning that any coach who had, when we made the shift about a few years ago to adjust our stipends to be market value, the stipends originally were at $8,500, and so to better align our stipends a few years ago, we moved to the $8,000 head coaching stipend for some sports. And so as we have phased out some of our coaches who have been long-term, who are here with us, who made that old rate, we want to just kind of strike through some of those. As you see on the other side of page 11, we did keep a few of those stipends on because those coaches are still with us, who are still making those respective amounts as they still have been with us here in the district. Of course, the girls athletic coordinator, that position, we wanted to just again compensate for the position that they are doing in the role, and so that position went from $7,000 to the increase that you see there before you, as well as a new stipend there for as the athletic trainer. Diving deep with our athletic director as well as the athletic coordinator, we want to take a look at our athletic trainers, because that is a new that has shifted from the market value of the athletic trainers. So therefore, we have 3 positions currently FTE'd across the district. 2 are assigned to the high school, and 1 is assigned to the middle school. The middle school was a hard-to-fill position, as we were not able to get anybody there all year long with the combination of Mike Moses and McMichael Middle Schools respectively when we added that position. And so just having conversations and visiting with them, we wanted to, again, create that stipend because of that market value so high for the athletic trainers to be able to make sure our students are safe and their needs are met there on the respective athletic programs across the district.
I think that's a very wise.
So
These athletic trainer positions, the board may know it, if you go to a game, you know there's going to be an athletic trainer that's there. They will make the call on the safety of a kid, whether they're going to continue or not. It's not reliant on the head coach. The trainer decides if a kid is able to continue to play the sport based on their energy, and we want to make sure we take care of our trainers so that we don't lose them. We don't lose them out of that capacity for our students. Safety of students is our priority.
And sometimes in the long run, financially, excuse me, helping Because simply if there's a twisted ankle or something, they take care of it. That person doesn't have to go to emergency room, they charge us.
All right, if we move to page 12, that's where we go into the UIL campus stipends. And so the dance stipend there at the high school, we increased that in that amount, just to, again, to compensate for the role of that dance teacher in the dance program. As you know, they added the step team this year at the high school in order to facilitate all those needs and the popularity of those different programs and the performances that they have to do is just to better align with that and doing conversations that we've had with the fine arts director, Mr. Johnson, and what he's seen to market that fine art, that particular dance program to get that in line. Also there, you'll see the UIL coordinator position that's just added to, again, align for the UIL coordination of all our UIL programmings there at the high school. Again, we've had somebody to be in that position, so again, it's just a clerical point of adding that to the compensation plan. There on the right at the middle school, clerical change in which we have came up with the terminology drill team, again, per Mr. Johnson, and working with him and his department, and just striking through the POM squad, and dance is to better align it, call it drill team there at the middle school. And then the UIL campus contact there at the bottom, that is a stipend. It will be one or the other, it will not be both. And so that UIL campus contact, in the event we have to have a hard to find, we cannot find a UIL event coordinator for the elementary campuses, who is just one person. This will allow us to have multiple campus contacts throughout the elementary campuses so that they can still coordinate the UIL activities for that campus. So it will be one or the other, not both. In the event we can't find one person, we'll have 5 individuals paid at that amount to be able to coordinate those activities there on campus.
That's good.
I have a question, Mr. Whitaker.
Yes, sir.
This is very good. You're doing well. The UIL is so important because we need to have our academics above the level of our athletics. And I don't quite understand where it says UIL event, 1 event, 1,000, 2 events, 1,250. Is that a person? Is that a sponsor? Is that the chaperone? Who does that represent?
Yes, sir. So depending on the numerous events they might have for UIL, so that particular teacher who was assigned that particular event will be paid that according to that stipend.
So they will be compensated for teaching them for several weeks or months to be prepared.
Yes, sir.
And then they will be with them when they perform, when they do
Go to competition. Yes, sir.
And this goes down now all the way to the elementary level. We're going to
Correct.
start UIL going, well, we have it lower, but we
Yes, sir.
against ourselves. But
Yes, sir.
I think it's really important that we stack this because the reason we are winning now is because we have been doing all along the way. And I think this is wonderful. So I think compensation for the teachers who do the work is necessary and well appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. There, if we move to page 13, we will see the academic and professional stipends that we have there. There has been an addition of the instructional coach stipend. This is a stipend that we are adding this year for the work of our instructional coaches that we have primarily at the secondary level. There is one at the elementary level, but again, to coordinate for the work that they are doing, pushing in, supporting our teachers, and helping them grow, and modeling lessons, working with them one-on-one, and helping their professional development, growing in their particular content areas.
Could you elaborate
Sure.
on the elementary level?
Yes, ma'am. So there's
Instructional coach?
Yes, ma'am. So there's currently one right now that we have at a campus who does the instructional coaching for there. No, ma'am, just for that particular campus.
Okay.
Just for that particular
Yeah.
campus.
First of all, I just want to applaud you guys for adding instructional coach. This is, these people, they're not doing it for the money, clearly, because they never got it before. But it is very vital. We have such a high percentage of our teachers have 5 or less years of experience. And the mentor teacher, yes, important, and it's time consuming. I'm saying this for the public because I know all of you know this. This is the pairing up of a teacher with a teacher, a mentor teacher. But they're going to have the same subject area. And so it's not as drastic of time consumption as it is for the instructional coach, because we're talking a department here. For instance, the instructional coach in science maybe they primarily teach biology. Well, they're not just mentoring another biology teacher, they are helping out all the science teachers that are new. These are our master teachers who are really experienced, and the input that they can give is very, very vital, and you can probably tell where I'm going here. This is time-consuming because they have to make plans as to how to help that teacher. In other words, it's not like, oh, let's sit down and, I'll just, from experience, let's just sit down and plan our week for English 1 together. That's what a mentor teacher would do. Are you having trouble with discipline? Here's our problem. Here's what I suggest. The instructional coach is giving a lot more time and planning and helping for individual needs of these new teachers that cross over what maybe their schedule of lessons are. And I know money is tight, but if we could pay them a little bit more than mentor teachers, and I hate to sound greedy because I'm thrilled that we've added them, but they just really work hard and are very valuable. Just put that out there for consideration.
I wanted to talk a little bit about safety. We have intermediate, advanced, and master certifications, and we're compensating our resource or safety officers for their continued improvement in their field. I think that's really important, and seeing that they work day and night for our district, they are very dedicated, and so is their leader, the chief, and we thank you so much for that. I hope we encourage them all to get to master level, and we can pay them the most we can pay them.
And would you mind elaborating on campus webmaster?
Sure, yes, ma'am. So that position was previously the struggling through amount, but this allows the campuses to have a person to update their social media and as well as their campus page on the website to better align with all the ongoing activities that they may have, from the parent nights to the open house and et cetera, some of those campus activities. So it allows those campuses to better upgrade and update their campus and their social media in more real time. And so it's additional work of somebody on campus being able to better align and update all their information that they have on the campus level.
Yes, and this is so important, and then they can align it with the app, which you know I all love. I think it's so valuable in helping communication. Who is doing this right now on the elementary campuses?
I don't have specific names, but
I mean,
the
is it
principal
like
assigns
one
somebody.
position that this is attached to there, or is it just like, here, we're going to have this person?
Additional add-on. So it's
Added responsibility.
Yes.
Oh, I know,
It
it's
won't
an
be an
added, but I
added,
mean, like, do we always give it to the principal secretary, or do we, you know what I mean? Or is it, we
Let
look
me
around
answer
at the
this
campus and go,
question.
this
Yes, ma'am.
person would be good for that?
This, you can't hand this off to anybody, because technology is innate in the person that loves it.
Yes.
So you hand it off to a secretary that doesn't feel comfortable with technology, you're not going to get a good website. But if you have a stipend that's there, and I'm going to tell you, the creativity behind it, it's kind of limited, because we want to make sure that if a parent goes to the Fredonia web page, it doesn't complicate it because it looks completely different than TJR. We have the same flags, the same information. It's just to make sure that that individual that has an opportunity, it's kind of like when you go to the high school and you have a drill team, person who wants to do yearbook. You have individuals that have a passion behind that area. Is now what we're doing is we're compensating them for the work that they're doing to maintain. The main face, if you'll look at the city of Nacogdoches now, and you go to the city of Nacogdoches website, and you see there's a website, they are revamping that because the communication is, when people want to look at Nacogdoches as a city, it's the website. They're not even here. And it's the same thing that we have a physician or just mom and dad wanting to move into Nacogdoches, they want to know about a school, the very first contact they have is their website. And we've fallen a little short in the past with what the website looks like. But with this, we're making sure that how can we get our best foot forward in communication. So we find an individual on campus that may have a supplementary degree, they have a passion for technology, they've approached the principal and they're saying, can I be the webmaster? It may be the secretary. Sometimes it may even be one of the teachers that are in there. So, but they know that's above and beyond their normal responsibilities to maintain. Plus, it gives us a point of contact. Les in communications, Lineberger and his staff, this is also can make sure that we have some streamline and expectations when it comes to marketing and communication from the campuses as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully I answered your question.
Mostly. I have one more question,
Yes.
though, that didn't, you got close, but didn't quite answer. So will they, then they would forward information to Les to put on the app, or will they be doing?
No, they could do this they have
So
the
they-
opportunity to do it
Like you go
themselves.
to on the app, you go to the school you want, they'll be in control of all that information.
yeah.
Great.
Like, for instance, our high school, Mr. Autry, if there's something that's specific to their campus, then they have the ability to push that out. Where Mr. Lineberger and his staff get involved is when we're dealing district-wide communication, if we have something that's impacting the greater purpose of a campus. And parents can, when they drill down and they pick a particular message in the app, or go see that website, they're actually looking at what this webmaster has created for their site.
Yeah, this is very important. We don't want to be country bumpkins and behind the curve.
There also, and again, there's clerical error, we need to add the teacher referral. So in your draft, the version that you will have on Thursday, or every prior to Thursday, we will add that. That is the stipend that we look to keep as far as all the incentives that we added this past August, is the teacher referral, just to better, again, coordinate with some of the staff shortages and all the nationwide and statewide teacher shortages that we have, to definitely incentivize our folks to, again, refer folks to Nacogdoches to be in the classroom as we work on those parameters to encompass that. So we will be adding that, so you have that in the draft version that you will have before Thursday, as well as the BCBA certification that is added there. That is the board certified behavioral analyst. That is a certification that is tied to our behavioral specialists that work with our students who may exhibit some behavioral issues. So this certification is the upper level certification, which I have told has been extremely difficult to get to and to obtain. And so for a person to have that, they've gone through the education and do the work to be able to obtain that. And so this just allows them to have that certification as well as an additional education to better to work with our students who may have some of the behavioral issues that they may exhibit.
Mr. Whitaker.
Yes, sir.
At high school, the department head will receive $1,500.
Yes,
That
sir.
department head could be, he or she be a mentor teacher as well and get another stipend?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And also be an English teacher that is getting the critical teaching stipend. So you might have a teacher, but if they're doing that and they're doing and this is the part with the instructional coach, we have a prorating.
Yes.
Yeah, so if they're paying their critical area, you get the critical area stipend because you're serving students, not because you're teaching a critical topic. You're in the topic of that area, and you've got students you're teaching. So if you have a teacher who is an instructional coach, okay, they get the instructional stipend, but then there also may be a critical area, and they may have 2 sections, so they're going to get a prorated amount for teaching 2 sections in that area. Highly unlikely that they're the department head as well, because they may not have the time for that, but it's likely they could be. So you can actually see folks that are tapping into different areas of a stipend in multiple points. But the reason you see the instructional coach here is they are teachers of teachers. They're working with teachers. And they didn't have that before. What they were doing only was getting a prorated amount for being a critical area teacher. So they're still going to get the critical area prorated amount, but they're going to get on top of that the instructional coach, and possibly if they're a mentor, if they've been assigned as a mentor as well. So to your point, President Fashid, yes, they could be in multiple areas that are in here, so.
As we continue going through, on page 14, you will see the career and technical education stipends. There's no change other than clerical changes. On page 16, we get into the administrative and professional employees, and at this point, I will add that I did not mention it before at the start of the compensation plan. The increase that the district is recommending, and Ms. Barber will talk about that once she gets to the portion of the budget workshop, is a 4% increase throughout district-wide. So that is one of the, I think, the largest in a very long time that the district has been able to hit. There are proposing to give.
Can you say that again?
So that 4% increase is the largest in a very long time that I'm aware of.
Well, just make sure the board
that
hears that.
that is proposing.
Celebrate that.
And this is without knowing what the legislators are doing right now. We can't wait for the legislators to come on. The legislative, we appreciate anything they can come up with. And I'm speaking straight to the legislators, if you're watching this board meeting, is do everything we can to benefit all our educators, all the staff that support our kids, bus drivers, custodial, nurses, teachers, all of the ones that touch the lives of kids. And we can't wait until the legislative team comes up with whatever they arrive with. Here at Nacogdoches, we're making it a priority to say our teachers are the most valuable asset that we can. And I wish we could do more than the 4%, but based on our budget, and Lisa, Ms. Barber did a tremendous job. We have balancing long hours, making the numbers make sense for what we have, and arrive with a compensation plan. And so I just want to make sure that we hear that. This is a considerable amount for all of our staff.
So on page 16, again, we get into the administrative and professional employees. Again, it's just updating on the numbers that are changing in those respective pay grades. You will see there in pay grade 3 where the digital learning coordinators, we added that position to that pay grade to better encompass our digital learning team. They were digital learning specialists, but the goal is to incorporate them digital learning coordinator for the work that they are doing, and again, working with our teachers and providing with the professional development and integrating technology into their classrooms and the work that they're doing in servicing that department to keep, again, with the upgraded technology that we're doing from the different platforms, the Canvases and all of those, and working with those devices for teachers and all staff to better incorporate technology devices into their classroom for learning for our students.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the metric used to decide which grade the positions go in? Because some of them all require master's degrees, so it's not just your educational attainment.
Sure. It's looking at market level value as well for the position and also what the district is able to afford. So we are currently working on a study through TASB, Texas Association of School Boards, as a pay review systems to see where we align at with our positions and see where they align at. So we're currently working through them, and currently I know that it's not going to be ready for this current compensation plan, but this will better align us to see where our positions fall at and to see if they are in market level value with equal other school districts, equal to our size, and also they take into effect, again, the weight of the position, what position they're going to be doing to see where it falls in the respective pay grades that we currently have or that we may need to add in the future.
Okay, thank you.
My question would be the criteria for minimum, midpoint, and maximum. What are we using to gauge who's in each of those categories?
Sure. So we have some information through TASB in which we basically look at their years of experience in relation to the role and be able to plug that data in and to be able to, again, compute where they would fall at in their respective pay grade that they would be arriving.
So, just for, I guess, clarity and, of course, equality, so every person in that grade that has 5 years of employment, their salary is the same in that pay grade?
Sure, ideally,
as
yes,
the
sir.
years go?
Yes, sir. And again, as we look at that, as we look historically over what positions have been paid what, and again, the study would also help to encompass too, because it also looks at active employees as well. And so it compensates that, where you have your active employees at, where the relation, how long they've been there. So that's all the data that TASB is pulling as well to be able to figure out are there any disparities in a person's pay grade throughout historically over the years and what they may have arrived to.
Good question. And Reverend Irving, to extend on that, a real problem is we can follow what the TASB rule is sometimes, and it puts us behind the 8 ball because it limits the opportunity to really take somebody and grow them as our own in the district. Example, you can have a teacher that has been working to become an administrator. They finished at year 17. They've been hitting the minimum, midpoint, and maximum. They've been hitting that. But then if you follow the guidelines of TASB, and this person who's been in education, teaching, went and got the degree, they become an administrator, and all of a sudden, they're going to make less money going into the administration and then become an administrator. However, you got to be very cognizant, the focus of the state is to make sure that we keep teachers in the classroom. That's where they make the greatest impact. If you look at the teacher incentive allotment that Dr. Hill and the team we've been hitting with, that's an incentive to keep teachers and hopefully get them to 6 figures, but keep them in the classroom. However, how do you grow your administrators? How do you move people from that side of it and into administration? And that was a real situation we had it this year, where we had some folks that had a lot of years in the classroom, and we've got to pay due diligence on that experience. A teacher who's been in the classroom for 17, 18, 20 years and wants to go into administration, and they're going into year one, okay, there's a problem, because all of that is valuable information. They know how to navigate a classroom, they know all the communication with that, so how do we arrive with a fair compensation? And there's where we're working with TASB to figure out, okay, how do we recognize that so that we don't put ourselves in a deficit and we're not growing administrators? And we're into the role of becoming an assistant principal and then hopefully a principal within the system. That's a real example to what you're talking about, because that's exactly sometimes that happens, is when they're in those ranges and they've been following it, boom, they get slid back to a minimum when they switch over to the administration. So we've got to figure out how and what is the best mechanism for that. And we're going to be working with TASB on that plan.
Wouldn't it also would be a good tools for recruiting? Some schools, they reach to a certain point, then they realize NISD pays a whole lot more at midpoint, and they decide to join us.
Yeah. Very, very true.
There, also on page 16, you will see Technology Services Coordinator, that position going away. So that is an old, outdated position that we've had in the compensation plan. That was kind of what we had as a leader of technology for a while there, for at one point in time. And so this is just striking through and eliminating that position, because we no longer have that position currently in our hierarchy within the technology department. There on page 17, you see the clerical change and clerical revision of that particular campus. As we go through, again, there's on page 19, you will see the clerical and instructional aid employees. These are the changes to the respective pay grades with the increases that we have mentioned. There on page 22, as you get into the hourly trade employees. On page 23 of that, on pay grade 4, that is the addition of the painter. We've always had a painter, but again, it's just adding that to the compensation plan to reflect the current positions that we currently have.
Can you explain the aid 1, aid 2, aid 3, clerical?
Sure.
You know, what's the differences there?
It's just different levels of different classifications. So what encompasses an aid 1 is your classroom aids, your PE aids, your classroom aids. As you move on up, you have the different aids. So life skills will be a certain special ed will be a level 2 or aid 2, and therefore, so you just definitely moves up. So it breaks down the different area or classification of paraprofessionals that you may be, that we it encompasses that. And this just allows us to kind of have it all together and broken out that way. You might see that with the different clerks positions, as well as the different secretary positions that you see within the respective clerical and instructional aid section. It just allows us to not have several different positions there listed there all together. So this kind of helps clean up and organize that position of where they may fall at in the pay grade.
So it has to do with, I'm still not clear.
Sure. So
Like all classroom, or how many years experience?
No, ma'am. So it's based on their location or what their role is. So a PE aid and a classroom aid will be an aid 1, for example. Also, some special ed is currently at the moment is an aid 1. Aid 2 is a life skills as you move on up to that area as well, to be broken out.
And how do you get to be aid 4?
again, the role, what you're assigned is your assignment that you might do. So if we move you from a PE aide to, say, a special ed life skills aide, then you become to an aide 4, depending on that. So you don't necessarily move that position. So say if you're a PE or a classroom aide,
So
yes,
you
ma'am.
were saying those, but you were moving up as you were saying.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
got it.
Yes, ma'am. So if you're a PE aide, and you've been here for the district, you move
Gotcha.
within that pay grade, the number of years that you've been here. But depending on your assignment, if whether it's a PE aide or a special ed aide, then you might
Right.
move the pay grade depending on your
Okay.
assignment.
I understand that.
Gotcha.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. So going back to hourly and manual trade employees, again, we added the painter in pay grade 4. And then on pay grade 7, you will see the warehouse supervisor. That's not a new position. We've had that position. It's just for ease of terminology. We got away from using central receiving and shipping supervisor, kind of that long name, which, most commonly used by Mr. LaRue and his team. And it's just the warehouse supervisor that we have there in that department, as well as the addition of bringing back the operations supervisor. So that's a position that we're looking at adding back to the fold, is just that way it can help streamline our transportation department and have additional person capacity out there to help facilitate our transportation needs for the many different avenues that we have out there.
One of the areas that I'm particularly interested in making sure that we can fix this is in the hourly manual trades employees. This has limited with your degree, bachelor's, master's, doctorate. It had nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the skill and the demand of a person you have, i.e. HVAC. If we're going to get quality HVAC folks that are invested in the district, then we need to pay them market value for being the HVAC person to figure out. So in the study that we're going to look at is, what is that value? What I don't want is somebody to leave us being our HVAC person, and I love Pilgrims, and they go work for Pilgrims, but they're making more money working as an HVAC person there. Or they go to the university to work for SFA. I want to make sure that we, through the guidance of Mr. LaRue and his staff, to figure out, okay, what are these critical areas that we have? The same thing with a locksmith. If you're dealing with a locksmith and touching everything, and that safety and security, what does that look like for our folks? So even though you see this, and you see the hourly rate may be below, and I'm not going to say may, is below the market, but we don't know how far. So we need to get to the study to figure out where is that, so that we can become competitive and be able to address that. So you'll see, this is an area that I'm very leaning in a little bit with our folks. What I don't want is a person that's working in any of these areas right now that we're covering, that they're having to go subsidize their existence by working at Walmart as a checker, and they're working with kids all day long in instruction. Or they're working for us on grounds, but then they're having to go work and do another job. How do we invest in our people because they're committed to Nacogdoches ISD? And it's going to be in these pages right here, 21, 22, 23, as we're talking about the hourly and the manual trades of our folks. I don't want our folks to hear me say that teachers are not important. They are. Everybody is important in the organization, so how do we stretch that dollar to touch the lives of all of our folks, especially those that are having to work multiple jobs in order to exist, whenever they could probably go work somewhere else and make a little bit more money. So I just want to make sure to draw attention to that.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes,
our
sir.
hourly laborers, are they eligible for Social Security?
No, sir.
Okay. So what you say is worth it a lot.
Absolutely.
They're not.
Unless they come in a previous life with some other Social Security experience and have paid into Social Security in that regard.
So therefore, they deserve more.
Definitely.
And then on page 25, you will see the technical pay schedule for our technology support employees. And again, no changes to that other than the pay grade changes that we have for those respective positions.
Mr. Whitaker, thank you for the highlighted hard copy. It really helps to understand. We really have a better understanding. Thank you for your hard work.
Did you say you were going to pick this back up?
Yes, sir. I can wait till after Ms. Barbara goes to her section, but I will pick those up. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so I would like to move on to page 45 of the board book. And here we'll see a summary of those raises. So a little more insight into the raises. Our teachers and counselors, you saw that we increased the minimum salary to $50,000 for teachers, which translates to about 15% for them. And then that trickles down. So between all of our employees, no one will get less than a 4% raise.
Wow. That's awesome.
So on page 45, you'll see there, it's broken down between teachers, librarian, nurses, counselors, professional admin, clerical, police, all the way across, and what that raise is going to cost the district. And of course, the biggest cost is in the teacher compensation. For the cost to our local budget will be just a little over $2 million. And that covers 428.85 employees there. When I reference here other, that's just not local, that's our federal and state funds. And then we have new positions that will cost us in teachers $553,000. Do you follow where I'm going? I'm going down there. So at the very bottom, between all funds, the teacher increase in pay will cost us $3.1 million. Counselors, obviously, we don't have as many, so that won't be as much. But again, they are at a minimum of 4%, a maximum of, I believe theirs is at between 12 and 15%. We, again, have professional administration, total cost there, $480,000, and that touches 126.5 FTE. And going all the way across, we finally have our totals. And so for all funds, this increase will cost the district almost $4.4 million.
Okay, normally we have a little pie chart, and normally we've been about 8 out of $10 we're spending on people, on employee salaries. So now, what's going to happen to the pie? It's going to be 82, or what number is it going to be approximately?
It will be over 80%, but I don't have that exact number yet.
Okay.
So any questions on the raise that I can expand on? All right. Because we are giving this huge raise, that means that we have to look at all other areas of our budget to be able to afford this raise. But we feel it's important because we are in a crisis with our employees, getting good quality employees, and we need to pay them. So we met with every principal and every director, and they have been, we discussed this on what is important, giving raises, and where can you cut, and they were directed to do an evaluation of all of their things they spend on and what is important, what works with in their curriculum, or what, anything, and reevaluate it and start from scratch and build a budget. So that's what we have done this year.
What you might typically see is, in what she's alluding to, is basically your zero-based budget.
Yes.
It's just a zero-based budget. Typically, you'll see folks at our home, when we're doing our budget in the house, this is how much our utility bill runs, this is how much our water bill runs, car payments, insurance. What we did is, we just said, you know what? We don't know those bills. Let's cut all that out, let's get to zero. What exactly does your electric bill run? and how can you, what exactly is this bill? So you'll know exactly, so you start from zero, and it's easier to build from zero than it is to maintain a budget and try, because now you're trying to defend the amount that you have. And we don't want to start off by defending the amount that you want to have. You want to make sure that, what does that expenditure look like? What can we do without, because we've been doing it, and without it, and to accommodate this. So what Ms. Barbrick is basically letting you know is it's basically a zero-based budget. It's not a bad concept when you're dealing with campus leadership, is to build it from your zero-based and build what exactly the services are there, and that's how we can arrive with the numbers that we have. So.
Now, one thing that has to be taken into consideration in building a budget is the state requires us to be equitable across all campuses. So you can't favor a campus. You will be dinged for that because we do have to submit our amounts to TEA and show that we are being equitable. So you can take into consideration what, the poverty rate of your campuses. So the poor, you can give more to a poor campus. And so if you cut, for us, it's our top two poorest campuses. If you cut their budgets, you have to prove you cut the rest of the district's budgets. You cannot cut them more than you cut anybody else. So again, I'm saying, you cannot favor a campus. So I know in the past, that has been a concern of the community members saying, oh, you just pour everything into this campus because that's your favorite campus. You can't do that. You have to show that you're giving the same amount per student to each campus. But the poor campuses can receive a little more.
Now, let me rephrase that statement as far as poor. We're talking about the most challenging campuses that we have academically, based on the socioeconomics of the kids and making sure that we can provide the needs that they have. Now, they will receive some additional federal funds. There'll be some grants that maybe they can apply for, and they can provide the needs of the kids. What we're concerned with is, for instance, and I shared this with the board and with the community, is, for instance, like House Bill 100. I hate to go legislative with everybody, but I want to make sure everybody understands that when you look at HB 100, it sounds really nice and it's really good. It talks about compensation to teachers and all the things that we have. But you also got to pay close attention to little riders that attach themselves to it. And the rider in that was going to be with our CTE program. And CTE would see a reduction of about $2 million for us, okay? Which means, where is that going to come from? So when we do that, when they reduce it, then how do we redirect the funds to make that happen? So my mind just went blank, with COI, went back to her team and said, we need to fix this so that we're not penalizing a specific programming. And it's exactly what Ms. Barbrick is talking about, is per pupil, it's allocated the same amount. However, you will see some funding that seems to be going, but those funds are subsidized or brought in through federal funds or grants or services based on the population of the students that we have and how challenging it is. The other thing is, if the campus has has not achieved the level that the state expects them to achieve, then they receive additional services. That does not mean they're spending more money. They're receiving additional services through Dr. Hill, her department, Region Service Center, and all of that. But as far as what our business office does, is make sure that we've allocated the fair disbursement of budgeted funds that we have. And exactly what she's saying is, the more challenging campuses, those have the magnifying glass of the state. And if you drop budget there, that means you've dropped budget everywhere else, because those campuses have a unique need based on the population of the students and the services that are being rendered on that campus. So just making sure that when we see that, that's what, not that it needed more clarity, but I want to make sure that folks out there know that when she's saying a campus is poor, there's a lot of other defining pieces that play into it that are academically challenging. They may have some other deficiencies that are there. So I just wanted for the public to clarify that.
When you say cutting the budget from some campus versus another campus, you're talking about amount or the percentage of?
It's a per pupil, it's based on per pupil.
I understand. but-
So if this campus here has 500 students, and let's say it's $50 per student, and this other campus only has 100, well, then the 100 obviously gets less money. But per student, they get the same amount.
It would not be a percentage, it would be by the number.
Yeah.
And that's just why I love the conversation that they're having at the state level, is they're really looking at funding schools through enrollment versus ADA, because now we're trying to get kids at school. This building, it doesn't matter if it's 3 people in this room or 50, you still got to use the utilities to power it. So the key is pay it by the number of enrollment, so that you don't have to worry about, well, if 3 people come in, then they're going to send you $30. But if they all show up, they're going to give you the $100. No, we got to operate school.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they're looking at enrollment. That would follow the model, President Nirmon, to the number of kids versus the percentages.
Dr. Trujillo, on a page, I guess it's 144, it says 2023-2024 budget development enrollment as ADA projection,
Yes.
and the total number of students, is this include Margie Chamberlain students or not?
It does.
It does? Okay,
That
and
was- yeah.
there is a couple of schools drastically, those numbers have changed. I mean, more than, is there, I believe it was third grade? No, third grade has increased, ninth grade maybe? I had it written down. But anyways, there's one campus, one grade, I think we had 83 people less student than the year before.
And remember with redistricting that we've done?
Yes.
District-wide, we've moved a lot of kids around in the district as well. Enrollment is on a possible trend,
Yes.
which is a good thing for us, bringing in the students to the building. The unfortunate thing is the state doesn't use that as their funding formula. They use attendance, average daily attendance. And so if you're at a 92% attendance rate and it drops to 91, it has some serious implications for funding. But if you have, 6,000 kids and they fund you on 6,000 kids, you're going to get that money. And I'm going to tell you, our charter friends that are out there and some of our private and parochial schools, they get funded based on who shows up, not on an ADA model. And so that's the part that we want to make sure that we're fair, is how we funding schools, because that way we can pay the staff that we have. But that's a good point. You do have some fluctuation that occurs within enrollment, but you also have a bubble group of kids. For instance, we will have a grade level, and we heard it from a demographer last year when they presented, and they'll say, you've got this wave of kids coming. We've got to be able to prepare ourselves to say, in 3 years, we're going to need this many teachers at this site. Or we've got to move teachers. If we're not going to have a high level of first grade sections, then how do we move teachers from first grade up to possibly second or third grade to follow the wave and not have large classes or small classes with large numbers of teachers? Right size our classrooms so that we can meet the needs of that fluctuation that you're seeing.
Our secondary students are higher than
Yes.
has been,
Yes.
and good reason.
All right. On page 46, we have our historical enrollment numbers. And so looking in 18-19, we had over 6,200 in enrollment. And in 22-23, we have 5,943. So obviously, we have been dropping in enrollment, and then COVID hit, which caused a serious decline. But if you see then, between 22 and then 22-23, we did have an increase. And projecting for next year, we'll have another slight increase, is what I'm coming up with.
What I noticed is there's a very strong pickup of students in the in secondary, particularly high school.
Yes.
That's very good.
Well, and then you can't see this in the numbers, but what's exciting is we have the capacity of 320 pre-K kids. And so if we can get them started earlier, in the system and be able to develop that system and maintain that momentum, you're going to notice that we can need to address the elementary component of it. Where do we lose the elementary kids? How do we lose elementary kids? Why are we losing the elementary kids? So those are the areas that we've got to put a lot of our energy and focus is in that midsection, because they're coming back because high school's got some great programming and great opportunities. So how do we build that same momentum and commitment with our mid-level so we don't have kids that leave us at the elementary level? So that's an area of focus that we'll be prioritizing.
On page 47 is what our enrollment and ADA projections will be for 23-24. And here you'll see a large increase in our pre-K numbers due to moving to the Fredonia Elementary, a larger capacity there to bring students in. Currently, we are at capacity where we are at, and so we are not able to grow even though we have the students out there that could come in. So that is our biggest growth area there. But the increase will be from 5943 to 5997, and that translates to a projected ADA of 5,432, which is what our budget has been built on. Dr. Trujillo did mention enrollment. Currently, we are funded on ADA rather than enrollment, so that's what our budget is built on until we learn otherwise.
Based on that projection, I think we are 54 total students added compared with the last year, or 22-23.
And again, these are all
Estimation.
guesses based on trends. All right, and then on the final page, which is page 48, is our projected budget. General fund, we are projecting 62.9, almost $63 million in expenses, in revenue. And balanced budget means that our expenditures match our revenues. So that's what we have done there. And our biggest expense, of course, is in education, in instruction at $32.9 million. Looking at our student nutrition, a balanced budget there of $5 million, and our fund balance is projected to be at $1.1 million. Again, we want that to be lower because we have received audit findings twice, 2 years in a row, because our fund balance was too high.
Right.
And then debt service, we are showing a small growth in our fund balance of $471,000. Any questions on our budget? All right. And I can almost guarantee you that this will change.
Ms. Barbrick, just another point to put a bookend on the very end of this conversation. We began at the very beginning talking about the ESSER funds that were there. We do have a set amount, a dollar amount, a percentage amount of ESSER funds that we have used to subsidize some of our staffing. And so that same number, as we get and we look through the year and we start making the big decision, that's going to be the tough one when we get to the very end. I just want to make sure that we all know that's when we're going to roll our sleeves up. And at that point, we're dealing with lives. We're dealing with work. We're dealing with people who have been invested to Nacogdoches. However, they that group was brought in because of ESSER stimulus adjustments that have happened. And when that money is no longer there, then we've got to make sure we have the hard decision. So throughout the year, we'd like to really make sure we continue to have this dialogue with the board, to bring those numbers to you all, to let you know ESSER funds is this much. And to Mr. Groman's point, Dr. Groman's point, is if we're above 80% in personnel, okay? And you look at that number, there's going to be a percentage there that's going to be a little uncomfortable for us to look at, because now we're not just dealing with the dollar value. These dollar values are attached to a position, and that position is a value employee that has made a commitment to be with Nacogdoches ISD. However, every individual that has been brought in has been communicated that that's an ESSER position. And so I just want to make sure, as we're having this conversation, we're still 12 months out. We're not, I don't want our heart rates to get up. I just want to make sure that we remember that when she talks about the budget that's here, it's balanced and we're able to present it. However, it is going to change, fluctuate based on how real those enrollment numbers wind up. But at the very end, Lisa constantly reminds me, it throws it right back at me, you can have anything you want, you can't have everything, Gabe. And it deals with the budget when it comes to personnel. And we do have positions that we'll have to have deeper conversations about as we move in through this next academic budget year. So.
Right. And when your payroll is 80% plus of your budget, if you're needing to cut, you're not going to make much in cuts cutting outside of payroll. So this budget is very tight. You know, I always tell you I budget conservatively. I have budgeted less conservatively this year to make these happen. But we have seen where we have grown our fund balance quite a bit. So with that in mind, we know that there was more wiggle room in my conservatism.
Let's astutely use all the ESSER funds we can use to better our positioning into the shock time.
And just know that this is not just a Nacogdoches issue. Every school district is dealing with this, they call it the ESSER cliff. But we have been very diligent in making sure that how we meet the needs of our kids by providing the best service that we can. And we may have learned something. We may decide that that's something that we need to find out, that commitment we have. Mr. Montoya mentioned that a big conversation is going to be with the social worker group, but what that may look like as we move forward. So, thank you, Ms. Barbary.
Okay. We have a consent agenda. Okay. Now we are in a consent agenda, and Ms. Barber.
Good afternoon, board members again. So on page 63 are our budget amendments. The first budget amendment is to budget funds received for an insurance payout for a bus collision. This was, someone ran into one of our buses, so we received some insurance funds to make repairs. B, end-of-year transfer to technology fund for E-rate savings on telephone service. This is an annual transfer out. So we, our telephone service qualifies for what we call E-rate funding. It's federal funds. And then at the end of the year, those savings are transferred out to the technology fund for future use. Item C, budget funds donated. We received $45 in donations and applying it to extracurricular activities. Item D, amend TRS on behalf, revenue and expenditures in preparation for year-end entries. And this is an entry that revenues always equal expenses. It's a journal entry. No funds actually come in or leave the district based on this. But we're just truing it up between functions. This is the state's contribution towards our retirement. Item E, amend student nutrition budgeted revenues to reflect closer to our actual receipts. So we are anticipating a little bit more in federal and local revenues and a little bit less in state. Item F, amend local and state debt service budget revenues to reflect closer to actual receipts. So we received more than was originally budgeted for debt service. So that's just increasing our revenue there. Any questions on budget amendments? All right, next I would like to go over our donations.
Gift and donations.
And they are on page 70. These are donations, gifts and donations under $2,500. So athletics, they received $1,483 for girls basketball from the Nacogdoches Dragon Girls Basketball Athletic Booster Club. BQJ received $1,100 for the library from Tim Batter's rental. And Breguet received $50 for a second grade class to purchase shirts and water for a field trip. And then on page 71, our investments, page 72. This past month, we received $232,000 in investment income. And then if you have any questions on any other of my reports, I'll take them now.
I don't have a script on me, but board, if you want any more detail or a script, I don't have the script in front of me.
All right.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I have one more.
No, we moved and our papers got mixed up.
That's okay. They're going to be right there.
Yeah,
On C.
we finished.
See.
Okay.
On page 108, we have gifts and donations over $2,500.
Right. Okay.
We received $11,045.09 from the Nacogdoches Dragon Swim Athletic Booster Club for the swim team.
Right. Okay. Any questions?
We sure like our donors. We'll even let them give blood.
Okay. Now we're going to, I believe, yeah. Again, it's Ms. Lisa. It's consideration of the board approval of gift and donations. We went through it. So health special risk.
Yes.
Ms. Lisa.
So this is our, what I'm bringing to you is our student insurance. And you have never seen this before because this is the first year it's over $25,000. So we received quotes for the student accident medical insurance, and this is for the 23-24 school year. And new to this year is now covering some CTE activities for them to do internships outside of the district. So that's one reason why the price went up. The budget impact will be $27,128. And we are recommending that we go with the Health Special Risk Incorporated for the student insurance.
who is managing our student risk insurance on a campus, on a district-wise? In other words, a person in charge.
The athletic trainers are pretty much the
Okay.
point people.
When I was the athletic director, we made a policy, if students are injured, first thing they do, they visit with athletic trainers. So athletic trainers makes a form, they either take care of it there or they refer it to a physician. In other words, students just don't go home and complain and go to the hospital,
Right.
if I make sense.
Yes.
Is this still practice?
Yes, it is. No change.
Great.
And of course, this always kicks in after the student's personal health insurance covers it.
Correct, very good. Thank you. And consideration compensation plan, we've gone.
I think this is about $4.50 a kid, more or less. So I think that's a good insurance policy for us to keep from the students not being well protected, and we should be well protected as well.
One more question I have on that. If the students go through a physical, and in the past, the physicals was like an assembly line, some nurses or some students get eye examinations, blood pressure, things of that nature. If a student, God forbid, for some reason gets injured, let's say heart issue or severely had asthma, we didn't know, are the insurance cover those?
This
Because-
is accident insurance,
Yes.
not health insurance. It's
Okay.
accident.
Therefore, when there is a physical examination happening, the physician should not be given any fee, should be free. And they even should, sometimes they have to sign a contract that they are not responsible for heart attacks and things of that nature. Am I making sense? Okay, when I became athletic director, they advised me that let the students go through their physicians or someone who was practicing medicine, get their physicals done. So therefore, they are responsible, not the school. Am I making sense?
Yeah, this is only for if a student is playing football. Like you said a while ago, if again, the trainer sees them and they're injured at school. This is only that kind of insurance. Anything that's beyond that is the full responsibility of the parent or the guardian with what services they have. I don't want to confuse the public in thinking that this is any other kind of insurance. This insurance only covers when students are involved in a student activity. They could be a band, and they get injured at another football field, and they're marching, or something happens, they break their arm. The accident is any function of the school that they're acting as an actor in the school system would cover that. This does not cover, and Ms. Burbrick, you might clarify this, if a parent is out there and they are at the playground at Nettie, and they slide off the slide and they break their arm, and the ambulance comes over, they're responsible for making sure that they take care of the ambulance fee and all of that. What we're talking about is an accident that's tied directly to a membership with a program and being an actor in that program, whatever that program is. Am I correct, Ms. Barbrick?
If you're talking during the school day and a student has an accident,
Yes.
it will cover it after the parents
Insurance.
use their insurance.
Yeah.
But it's only for accidents, not anything that is a health concern, such as heart or,
Yeah.
some kind of underlying disease.
That is exactly what I'm saying. If they have a medical history in some kind of illness, we're not covering those.
No, we do not.
That is, that's why I said the physician has to.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we are in a discussion. The consideration of proposal for the Thomas TJR or Thomas J. Rusk abandonment project. Discussion would be Mr. Ralph LaRue, is not here. Mr. Michael Martin, Deputy Superintendent.
Thank you, President Nurimon, members of the board, Superintendent Trujillo. We're at our TJR campus, and a crack in the ceiling was discovered earlier this year. The material was tested due to the age of the building, and it was found to contain asbestos. The removal phase is phase one, just getting the asbestos out of there, getting it abated. The second phase will be to replace the ceiling after we evaluate what is left after the abatement. Administration is recommending that the board approve $28,663 to contract with ERI Consulting, Inc. To abate TJR. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is a ceiling, is it first floor, second floor, or cafeteria, hallway, where is it?
It's in the auditorium.
Auditorium, yeah.
Just below,
Okay.
yeah, just below the balcony, first floor.
Is there any action is going to be taken on the behind TJR?
Not at this time. It is part of our master plan, Dr.
Yeah,
Trujillo. you want-
the topic right now is only with regards to TJR and the investment in abatement. That's the only item on the topic right now. I will tell you that our folks are very well trained. The eye of our employee was able to recognize and was able to identify that it needed to be addressed. So I want our community to know we have the best employees that are out there to make sure that we can take care of it. And that was through our very own staff member that said, hey, this doesn't look right. And that's what kicked off the abatement request for it, so.
President Nurman, could we move this to our consent agenda
Yes, we can.
if there are no other questions about it?
Yes. Anybody has any question on that?
Nope.
Okay, are we done? At this time, we need a motion.
We can't vote in here.
No, motion for dismiss.
No, we
One
have
more
the
executive.
executive session, don't we?
Oh, we have another executive session.
Yeah.
Now, at this time, the board goes to the executive session, and the time is 2:07. Okay. The board will now conduct an executive closed session in discuss the items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meeting Act and as followed by Texas Government Code Section 55.071, 551.072, 551.0.74, and 551.0.129. No voting will be take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in the closed session will take place after the board will convene in an open session. It is now, the time is it
2:08.
2:08. Anybody has anything to put on the next agenda?
Wait.
Not everybody's back.
No.
Oh,
I don't think Montoya is coming. Is he coming back in here?
you might as well pay him himself.
And then you're going to have to call it back to order, see on your screen.
Oh, yes. Where's mine?
I think
His, his,
I think he left.
oh, he left?
He left. He said we need to get to the conference.
Did he leave?
Oh, there he is.
There he is. He's coming.
Now the board is reconvened, and any comment, any?
It's on the script.
Board is now reconvened into open session at the time of 2:38. Are there any requests to be for future agenda items? If not, then we ask for motion.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Order?